goodbye, we'll find one another down the line. Oh, people change, move on to a different place, my friend. I'll always recognize your face. Maybe things went bad, it was time to move on. Find yourself a home, try to right the wrong. Still, sometimes you feel like the days are too long. Just know that I am thinking of you, my friend. I won't ever say goodbye, we'll find what happened here. Is it true that we are breaking down? Can't believe that this had happened now. Can we work it out? What's going on? Used to be we read each other's minds. You and me together intertwined. Can we make it right? I reach out, but my hands find empty spaces. I look out, but I just see strangers' faces.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me? Can you see me well?
I can, yeah. I don't have a proper microphone set up. I hope you can hear me okay.
I can hear you and see you perfectly, John.
All right, great.
It's great. It's great to connect with you, John. I mean, look at you. Look at that compound. Where are you right now? Are you in England?
Wales, actually.
Wales.
Yeah, stuck onto England on the west.
Stuck on to England.
Yeah, we just moved up here recently. We live in the hills of North Wales now.
Beautiful, John. And I mean, look, John, what an album that you're unleashing on the world, March 26th, The Fray. First of all, I mean, look, we love all your stuff. Hummingbird, that came out a couple of years ago, Headlong.
Thank you.
We've played those to death. I mean, you know, the time has come. Lowlands of Homeland. Those have been on my repeat for a long time. But this one, John, I think it just has a special something to it, John. But anyway, let me digress. Let me quickly introduce you to my audience, John. I mean, you're one of the most respected guitarists and songwriters in the UK. Played to audiences all over the world, biggest festivals, sold out concert halls. So pleasure to have you on the show, John.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, you know, John, as one is listening to this album that I had to preview, I mean, the musical quality that you always bring is obvious, another level. But one of the biggest takeaways for me, I have to tell you, that comes across is resilience. And I think that makes it unique. There's a lot of like overcoming adversity here. Was this album, John, your seventh, if I'm not mistaken, your most gratifying in a way to get across the finish line?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about it, but quite possibly, yeah. I mean, it came out of a hard time, and it was a big logistical exercise getting it made with our collaborators, you know,
right,
in America and Ireland. Sam and myself, Sam Lakeman, who I co-produced the record with, there was a point 2 days into the session where we were looking at the list of, like we had a to-do list, thinking, are we actually going to pull this off?
Right.
But fortunately, you know, everyone involved are such great musicians and such professional people that it all came together really quickly. And yeah, to my ear, sounded good. So there was a big sigh of relief at the end of the week when we had a record in our hands, you know.
Definitely, John. And you know, to tell the audience, you know, Jessica Stavely Taylor of the Stays is in there. You know, the Milk Carton Kids, Bill Frisell, like it's an all-star cast that helps you out, John. Was it, like you mentioned, the technological aspect of working cross borders? I mean, it's easy to send a file, like, you know, you Dropbox a file, no problem. But was it? How difficult is it for someone that's not in your field to understand, like, to get your vision across, like the feeling across, you know, because you can't like Dropbox that, you know.
No, of course. I think there's an understanding, you know, between musicians who are of a similar mind, you know, that there's a desire to get it right and not play too much and contribute to the song in a supportive and meaningful way. And I think we all know that, you know, a piece of music is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
You know, and everyone has to play their part in a sympathetic and considered way. So I trusted all of my musicians to do that, and I think that's really it. You know, I didn't offer much instruction. There's a song on there called "Deserving," and
Beautiful
the two
song, yeah.
backing vocals are the great Sarah Jarosz and Courtney Hartman, two of my favourite singers. And I just said to Courtney, maybe you could just sing underneath me, and Sarah, maybe you could just sing a little on top of me. And I didn't offer anything more than that. I knew exactly what I wanted to hear, of course, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I didn't put that on them. I just thought, you know, I'm sure they'll get it right. And what they sent back to me was even better than what I was hearing in my head. And it elevated, it took this song and took it to a completely different level. So
It's a beautiful.
there's a lot of, when you're in the studio with musicians that you trust, you have to just hand over control. If they're playing your song, you can't try and steer the ship too much because it will crash. You just have to let them do their
Right.
part, right? And it was like that. I
Yeah.
tried to do that over email and over FaceTime calls. You know, I was just on a call with Sarah, just saying, just do what you feel, and if you can sing above me, that'd be great. Someone else is going to sing below me, and of course they nailed it. The audio they sent back was just amazing, and it worked. We folded it in on the third or fourth day of a 7-day studio session. You know, I sent them rough mixes, they recorded their parts, they sent them back, and then we put it into Pro Tools. You know, we're working on a computer. We put in their vocals, and then I would think, well, I can hear another guitar there to complement what they've done, so I would go and record another guitar, and then we put the bass down. So the songs were built in this organic
Beautiful.
fashion, kind of around the collaborative part.
You can tell. You can tell. Like something so well made, like your album. You can't. That's just. You can't like pre-program that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's
Yeah, well,
just.
thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It feels it feels organic in that way.
It does, John.
Yeah.
But the message, you know, going back to the message, I love it because it's not hope, you know, it's something stronger than that. It feels like as you're listening to it and you're like developing the story of the message, I feel like the listener takes away that life does not happen to you, it happens for you. I feel like that is like the takeaway. At what point in the process, John, of an album do you like figure out that this is like the theme that's coming, that's like becoming it?
I think you get a sense of it early in the writing, but in my experience, it's always different by the time you come to the finished batch of songs.
Yeah.
And in this case, I had started to write the songs. You know, I'd written 3 or 4 songs before March of last year, and I just had this idea, kind of felt like I knew what the album was going to be about, and then everything happened. You know, the pandemic hit. I had to fly home from Australia where I was in the middle of a tour. My mother got really sick, my wife and I lost a pregnancy. Real life just hit, man. It hit us like a bus. And when the dust settled and I started writing songs, suddenly the album was about something completely different. It was there was nothing nothing mythic on the record. I'm not writing about any characters, which I've always done in the past. Everything on this record is just about my experience, you know, and some of it's the mundane, you know, progress of relationships and just that feeling of trying to get through a day without losing your mind, you know. And just holding on to each other, trying to stay in touch with your friends. It's all the stuff that, you know, a person growing older is concerned with. And I didn't really expect to make that album, not yet. I wanted to maybe tell stories about other people for a while first, but then everything happened and I just found myself writing about me.
Absolutely. I mean, one, to that point, one day at a time, right? I mean, first of all, the piano and the guitar, by the way, it just unbelievable. But what's a song
Oh,
like this,
thanks.
John? Um, those simple things like gratitude and mindfulness, like, would you say that they just kind of like grew in hyperdrive, like making a song, making an album like this? I
Yeah,
know. It sounds simple, but this simple concept just shine in this record.
yeah, man. I guess that's right. Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, the last year has taught me there's a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah,
You know, having spent so much of my adult life on the road, and then having that taken away, you just can't help but feel incredibly grateful for that time you've had out there. And the lucky thing was that when all my dates were cancelled and I was looking at a year in my house, it turned out that I really like my family. You know, I having been
yeah,
away
yeah.
for so much of it, it turns out, I really like being at home. I love being around my family.
That's
Um,
great. I
so
don't think my audience maybe understand that you have been 200 days a year on the road for many years, for
yeah,
many years. Like this has been your norm. So this has been a complete 180 for you.
completely. Yeah, it's been very strange, but I immediately looked for the opportunity to dig in and get shift my perspective and get as much enjoyment and put as much enjoyment into the situation as I could. And
Yeah,
despite everything that happened, um, it's been nice. I've learned a lot that I didn't know before. Just from being at home. You know,
sure, sure, absolutely. And it's funny because you wrote that song, "Burden of the Road," not too long ago, right?
I know. Careful what you wish for, right?
Be careful what you wish for.
That was a
Exactly.
song
So,
about being sick of being away from home, and then yeah, a year later, bang.
dang,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you miss the road, John? Are you itching to get back on stage?
Yeah, man. I mean, I had to drive to the post office today, and I took the scenic route. I delight in travel, and so even going to the supermarket or running
Yeah,
any kind of errand, I'll take my time and look out the window.
absolutely,
I miss it.
absolutely.
I miss playing music to people. I miss the people who come to listen,
Yeah,
and I miss seeing my musical friends. My brother and sister musicians. We're like colleagues who all work in the same office. And we haven't seen
sure.
each other for a year. It's very strange.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't wait just to get back and watch gigs again. To see people playing. Man,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Totally. I think we're turning the curve, so knock on wood, but that's what it's looking like. John,
absolutely.
let me ask about your songwriting because a song like I mean all of them, the Fray, that you did with the Milk Carton Kids. I mean, a lyric like up all night, down all day, I don't know where I'm headed, but it seems I know the way. I mean, we all end up there anyway. Goosebumps. Like the lyrics in this album, John Smith, is like I can't even process.
Thank you,
Are
my brother.
you Absolutely, absolutely. Is the songwriting for you like the disciplined approach? Like, you tell your wife, honey, I am gonna go to the office 9 to 5 and just kind of like go through the motions, like really like working out at like at the gym, or is it more like you go to the post office, you see the thing, discipline, like that kind of thing.
Occasionally, yes. When I start writing a record, I I get really really stern with myself, and I get up early and I go for a run, and then I get to the desk. I think about eating healthily, and I work for 4 hours, and I stop and have lunch, go work for another 4 hours. But it doesn't get me into it. Well, the destination is no different to where I would be if I were leaving it to chance.
Right.
And I'm sure that there's work to be done there. I think if I wrote all day every day, you know, for a month, I would be a much better writer at the end of that month. But it doesn't
Sure.
necessarily lead me to good songs. I just find that if a song wants to be written, it comes out. And I
Interesting.
don't have a lot of control over it, which is probably because I lack discipline as a writer, but also I just think that's the way the muse works. there are some songs, you know, She's Doing Fine. I wrote that song in about 3 minutes after I just picked
Yeah.
up. I picked up a new guitar. I played that riff, and then the song wrote
Yeah.
itself. I think if it's like anything. You can run a mile if you're fit, right? If you've been training. So I try and play as much guitar as I can, and I try and write,
Right.
as frequently as I can, just so that I'm exercising. I think you're more likely to write songs if you are, um,
If you're like in shape,
if you're
you want.
feeling in shape, quote unquote, in shape. Yeah,
That's
but
great.
but I don't.
I like that. Yeah, I like that balance, John, because like where we are, we're in Nashville, and like the songwriting thing here in Nashville is like the other extreme. People
Yeah,
will like it's like so academic. They'll break down every syllable for a year, and it's like almost too much. So I hear you.
yeah. I've been interested by that, and I've worked with Nashville singer-songwriters, and I always feel completely out of my depth, man. I like to take it slowly. If a song wants to take 6 years, then I'll give it 6 years.
Yeah, I got you. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great, John. John, you're such a thoughtful guy. I want to ask. I want to ask you about this Spotify debate. That's I think it's actually getting legs recently. I was talking about it with a friend the other day. The fact that okay, like your music is super popular on the streaming services. I believe that you've had almost 30 million streams of like of your last album. Like you're very popular streaming wise, but now people are starting to pay attention this pandemic. Now that like people are not able to get on the road about the numbers.
Yeah.
And people are saying, okay, so you are telling me that for every 1 million streams, an artist is getting a maximum of $500, depending on like the streaming service, and people are becoming conscious of like the mathematics of it. Where do you fall on this? Like, do you have an opinion of it? Are you
Well,
like it is what it is, or what's your take?
the major labels have a monopoly on streaming shares, and because that's not because Spotify are refusing to pay out. This is because the major labels control artist royalties and have got it sewn up in one pot, as I understand it, whereby
Right,
an artist who has not recouped, who signed a deal on a major label, makes nothing from streaming. I never signed
right,
that kind of record deal. I've always been independent because I saw very early on what major labels were doing to bands in Liverpool. Where I was coming up.
yeah, right,
Friends of mine got signed and then dropped by a big label within 6 months, and they were 200 grand in debt. And
right.
I'm just not interested in that. So I've always been independent. I work with 30 Tigers in Nashville,
Mm.
who are label services and distribution. I own all my masters, and so
Yeah.
when I get a million streams, I get to pay the bills for a few months. So
Right.
I think so much of it is about how you're running your career, how you're running your business. If you can take control of it and be independent and be forceful in your decision making, so that you don't lose out and you don't give your money to someone that you don't know, then
Yeah.
I think that's what you should be doing. But I've been, I don't know how it applies to people starting out, and I've been self-employed for 15 years, so I've got a little more perspective than I did 10 years ago. But I would encourage anyone to just hold on to their masters, even if it means you're going to be poor for a while. I didn't make
Yeah.
any money for the first 5-10 years that I was a self-employed musician.
Right.
It takes time.
It's like an investment in yourself, like trusting yourself. Like, yeah, totally.
Absolutely. The whole thing is about getting yourself out of bed and either getting to the next gig, or hoping that you're going to make enough money to pay the bills. But for me, streaming has worked out pretty well. But that's just because
That's because your stuff is quality, man. Because once you click on one of your songs, you end up, it's like a rabbit hole for like 20 or 30 minutes. That's what happens.
There's a lot of luck to get to a certain point on the streaming services. I can't claim to understand how it all works, but
Right.
yeah, I would avoid major labels if you want to earn any money.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, John, you've been so generous with your time. It's Friday night in Wales. I'm sure you want to be with your missus and the whole thing. But listen, I just want to congratulate you, because the Fray listen, we love all your stuff. I mean, Headlong, I mean, Far Too Good, love it, of course, and Save My Life. We love all that stuff, John. But the Fray, man, I think you are like in another level. Humbly, I think it's your best album. Can't wait for people to hear it. March 26th.
Oh man,
Just congratulations, man.
thanks so much. And can I just also thank you for playing me in Nashville? It blows my mind, man.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And you know,
Amazing to
once
me.
we're able to get on planes and you bring your guitar here stateside, like please come to the South.
I'm there,
Yeah,
man. Big time.
absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Take care.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Cheers, mate.